Big dog status, I'm a big dog, bitch. I pull up on the block.
For all my design-conservative lovers out there, you're gonna die at this episode. Joining me are two conservative women who are killing it in the design world. If you don't already know who they are, then you will thank me later. They are a few of the top experts in their field and have an eye for what's in and what's out when it comes to all things interior design and decor. Not only are they fabulous, amazing, chic interior designers and so talented, but they are both conservatives in a very, very liberal industry. Plus, I'm going to get the inside scoop on all the discrimination that happens to conservatives in the design world. Looking at you, HGTV. Then they'll let us know what's in and what's out, as well as some tips for those of you who want to revamp your home or a room in your house or your apartment on a budget. And then you'll get the tea on my apartment redesign. Hint, it's not as pink as you would think. Okay, let's go. My first guest is a TPUSA ambassador, mother, wife, owner, and principal designer of Mend Design, alongside her equally talented husband. Please welcome to the Spillover, Chrissy Hammer. Today's episode is all interior design related, Chrissy. So, of course, I had to have you on because this is your jam. Like, this is what you do. So, did you always want to be an interior designer or do remodels?
You know, I came into this space really naturally. My mom was always interested in it growing up, so it was something I was familiar with. You know, I was sort of like organically always interested in it because she was interested in it. It isn't actually what I studied in school, though. I studied English literature in college. So
Really?
I didn't study it until after I had kids. And then I started getting back into my passion, which was creativity in interior spaces. And then it's sort of evolved since then.
I always wonder about that because, you know, there's so many things that I'm passionate about and I didn't go to college. I went to like 2 semesters of community college. Then I started working my way up in radio. So I dropped out and I never finished or got my college degree. And I always think about that. Like, you know, I'm super into true crime and forensics and forensic interviewing children and things like that. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I could go back to school. So that's super cool that later in life you chose, you know what, this is a dream that I have. I want to follow it because I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Oh, for sure. Especially because in my culture, which is Christian, LDS, Mormon culture, the girls generally go to school, but they're married usually when they're in school. And then the goal is mostly get married, have kids, stay home. That's generally, which I think is an incredibly noble and wonderful thing to do.
Well, you live in Utah and your business is in Utah. And obviously Utah is like the mecca for these uber rich, like I'm thinking of the Rach Parcells, like the uber rich fashion bloggers that have these massive houses. So are a lot of your clients, I know you can't say who your clients are necessarily, but do you have any of these like huge?
I do. Yes. I don't think I can say who it is, but yes.
That's okay. I just figure because you're in Utah and everything.
Yes. It's incredible. And Studio McGee is based out of Utah. They have a really popular interior design show on Netflix.
Yeah, I think I follow them.
Oh, yeah. Their work is fantastic.
Well, there's different types of interior designers and renovators. I mean, when I think of Shiplap, obviously, I think
of
Chip
Joanna.
and Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
So how would you describe you and your husband's style and specialty? Like, what is your all signature?
Like in terms of style?
Yeah.
I would say we're very transitional. And transitional, to define it, is like a mixture of old world and modern. So like, you know, very traditional finishes, but with pops of modern so that you get the best of both worlds. I don't like to stay too stark in one style because then that's the only one you can follow. I like to be sort of eclectic in that. But I really like using vintage pieces to inspire sort of our design.
Me too. I really am into that too. Like a mix and match, some new stuff and some stuff that when you're antiquing or go into these like, I don't know, gently used furniture stores and you find those unique pieces. I like doing stuff and having stuff that nobody else has. It's like a big thing.
Like you want it to look like you were in Rome and you went like to a super cute antique store and it's been there for 3,000 years and you found a door and you're using that in your butler's pantry.
Yeah, for conservatives especially, we want to look super worldly and cultural because with the mandates, we ain't going anywhere.
We ain't going nowhere.
We ain't going nowhere, so we can't go to Rome and get a cool little, art piece or whatever. Okay, so how far were you guys into your career, owning your own business when HGTV came into the picture?
So we had started the business mostly as a passion project for me because I was a stay-at-home mom and it was very stressful, and Matt was great and was like, hey, you should do something that gives you like an outlet. So that was in 2012. We started our business in 2013. And then in 2016, we took on some bigger projects. And then in 2019, HGTV reached out to us. So it had been several years before they had contacted us, and they found us through Instagram.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Like, were you guys sending out pitches to networks,
No.
or they just saw your Instagram and were like, "Hey, we're interested"?
That's how HGTV does it. They won't take pitches. They only scout. So they will only take you on. They might take pitches from very old, like the Property Brothers have their own production company, so they might take pitches from Property Brothers before they've done much scouting, but generally that's not the way HGTV does it.
So when they reached out to you, I mean, what was their reasoning? What did they say they liked, or what was the idea for a show that they had that they thought you would be a good fit for?
So we tackle remodels and old remodels, and that's kind of cool. We don't want to tear it down. We want to rebuild and make it beautiful. And a lot of companies, especially in a place like Utah where there's a lot of land still, a lot of construction companies are building new instead of taking on remodels. And we specialize in remodels. So I think that was part of the allure for HGTV. They like that, that an old house, make it pretty, make the family happy, that sort of algorithm of shows that they like. They like the landscape. Utah's beautiful. They like the fact that we were Mormon. People are always like, oh, look at those Mormons.
Right. Yeah.
People are always super interested in that culture. And that's why they brought the housewives there, because that's part of let's get all these fancy women. And
everybody looks good. Everybody's very attractive in Mormon culture. Everybody has money.
Yes.
They've got huge families. It is prime reality show real estate.
Yes. Yeah. And they had tried with Studio McGee, our same production company, and they actually passed on Studio McGee before they made it to network. And then as our show was coming out, Netflix had picked up Studio McGee. So they kind of came out at the same time. But that was in 2019, before the world sort of tipped on its end and everyone lost their minds.
Okay, so everything at first is going smoothly.
Oh, yeah. They are so pumped. They come out, they do proof of concept, they do sizzle reels. It goes to the board of HGTV and then Discovery, because Discovery owns HGTV. So it goes to several board meetings. And they get pitched, 1,000 proof of concepts a month.
Wow.
And they picked ours. And they're like, oh, we love it. They picked 12 a year.
So once they pick you, how far in the shooting or producing process does this show get? Did it have a name?
Yeah, once they say, yeah, we love it, let's do season, we got these people, they're awesome, then it's working titles pretty immediately. But that can change even up till the day that it airs.
So are they sending crew out and they're filming you guys doing renovations?
Oh yeah, the whole 9 yards.
How many episodes did you film?
Well, we filmed more footage than episodes because they had ordered the pilot to get approved from the board. They weren't even planning on airing the pilot when they got the sign off from Discovery in December of 2019. Oh, we love them. We're going to do 13 episodes, but let's get the pilot out and in front of the board just to make sure it's a great show. It wasn't even supposed to air. Then 2020 happens. Everything's delayed. Our show gets pushed back. And then we complete it and it airs in February of 2021.
Oh, so it actually airs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They call us and say, hey, we're going to air the show. Which we weren't expecting them to do. We thought they were just going to call us and be like, okay, we're continuing.
And they had paid you
filming.
and everything?
Oh, yeah, they'd done. And the production alone, I think, was $1 million.
Wow.
For just this one that they did film. And then they aired it and they weren't supposed to. It was supposed to just go to the board and they were all going to sign off like they had been the entire process of saying, the Hammers are great. We're so excited. We love their product. They did an incredible job. There were no problems, no red flags. And then and we blew it out of the water for the airings. Like it was
The ratings.
the ratings. It was bananas. Like they said, we're going to we want to see how it does, which was weird. Like the producers hadn't told us that at that point. We're like, I thought we were just doing this for the board. They're like, oh, we want to see how it does. So this is in February of 2021. So remember, culturally, we're going through a lot of like cancel culture and all this is happening at the same time. And it airs and they say, we're going to air it right after a new episode of Property Brothers. So they're going to have a huge audience. We just want you to retain some of them. If you can retain half, we'll feel good about it. Not only did we keep their entire audience, we added another, I don't know if I can say the amount, but it was a huge amount of people. And this is from no marketing from HGTV. It was just grassroots.
Oh my gosh.
We hit up our influencer friends and we're like, hey, can you post that we have this episode airing?
Right.
And Mormons are always very interested in other Mormons in entertainment.
Sure.
So they're always like, oh yeah, we want to see what these folks in Utah are doing. So it just killed it. And we pulled in a younger audience than normal. The social.
Were they wanting you to make your faith, like being Mormon, a part of the show?
I think naturally it would have, just because Mormon culture is sort of like lifestyle.
Okay.
You know, like we're the way that we live our life is very much in line with our faith. So I think that was probably part of it. Anyway, so we have these incredible ratings and we're just waiting for them to be like, okay, we're good to go. This is going to be the schedule moving forward. And they called us in, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks after it aired. And they were like, HGTV is passing.
Passing why?
So we're just as shocked as the producers that are telling us this. Like, what are you talking about? We've been working on this for 2 years at this point. Like, what do you mean you're passing? Like, this is so, what? And one of the producers on the FaceTime, I mean, they're crying because the production company is different than HGTV. So like production companies produce and they sell to this media company. The media airs it for ad revenue, you know, so that's the way they do it. But our production company produced Fixer Upper, Restored by the Fords, literally every major show on HGTV. So they have a great relationship with them. And we were just so shocked. They were shocked. They were crying. We were crying. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is so, what? I mean, because our contracts were like 13 episodes, you know?
And they'd already aired one.
I already aired one. And they said, and we knew the ratings because the producers had told us the ratings. And they said, well, you're just another white married Christian family and America's heading in another direction.
Blatant racism.
Like, it was so shocking. I my mind was like, what on earth does our race or our faith or our marital status have to do with any of this? Like, did we create an incredible product in terms of the show and timelines and relationships with the production company? I mean, everything was great. We're very easy people. And they were like, no, American exceptionalism essentially it's dead. Like and then they also said, this part's crazy. Had you been Black or Hispanic, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You already would be in a 3-year contract.
So they admitted. It's not about skills. It's not about ratings. It's not, none of that matters. If you look a certain way, you're the one that's getting the shows. You're booking the commercials. You're booking the movies, or you're getting the promotion at work. Like, this is leftist culture at this point.
Yeah, we even had the president of our production company. Well, in the presidency of the production company, contact us and say, I have no idea what's going on. Like,
did you ever in your life, Chrissy, think that you would be discriminated against literally for the color of your skin as a white woman?
No.
I mean, that doesn't even make it. It's crazy. Like, it's so backwards. Everything's switched.
Yeah, it's, and I grew up in Los Angeles. Like, my upbringing was hardly vanilla. Like, it just wasn't even something that if you do well at something, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you produce something incredible. And I think that's the sad part, is that Americans are losing all these this incredible content and products. All these things were missing because people upstairs decide that we need to have a racial agenda. Like and it's not going to stop Matt and I from producing great stuff. All it did was inspire us to work even harder and create more things. But what you are when you do lower the level is you're now telling people of color or marginalized people that they don't have to produce something as great as the other people will. So we will rise and we will continue to produce great things, and we're asking them not to produce great things. You know what I mean? So it's like,
how much did you and your family, though, have tied up in this? Like, you were assuming that you were going to be making all this money from the show and doing all this. I mean, how did this pulling the rug out from under you, how did this sudden change affect your family business?
Oh, it was crazy, the sacrifice that because it was 2 years of our life. So not only did we turn down jobs because we had to be prepared for the load that we were going to take on, but we didn't sell our house because our house was part of the story. And we wanted to move, like almost immediately when we were contacted by HGTV, we were going to sell our house. So we stayed in our house for an extra 2 years. They monitored our content, like what we produce, our likeness is what they call it. So we weren't allowed to like post without them, or, like our verbiage had to be really careful. We definitely couldn't post pro-America, pro-conservative. Like
nothing political
like that.
And how many kids do you guys have?
We have 5. We're blended.
Okay, yeah, because you guys both weren't married previously. Mm-hmm. Then you guys got married. Mm-hmm. You both have kids from previous marriages. Mm-hmm. So did you have to have a conversation sitting down with your kids and say, hey, guess what? Because we're white, we're not getting a TV show now.
Yes, that's exactly what we had to do. And with the little ones, because we have older kids, the little ones didn't quite understand it. And it was a heartbreaking day and it was really sad. But the big kids, and we raise our kids to be involved in a sense. So they already know this is going on culturally. Like as a society, they understand. So when we said it, it wasn't shocking to them. They were like, yeah, that makes sense. Sure. The day before it aired, I was panicking, going through my Instagram like, oh my gosh, how can I undo all those posts I've liked from Larry Elder? You know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, I have to unfollow all these people.
Big
Matt
layer.
has to, I was just so scared that our media presence was also going to be a problem in going forward. So, and I do think that was part of it. We had an American flag. They made us take it down for the show. And
I feel like we're in an era now where cable TV that's just not the prime source people go to get content. Mm-hmm. However, HGTV has seemed to really just stand alone amongst these cultural changes of everybody wanting to consume streaming products. HGTV is still, especially with like young housewives and things like that, like that is who still is really consuming that. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to me that they wanted to drop you guys because they just thought you weren't diverse enough or that there would be controversy or whatever. And then, I think about another network, which is Magnolia. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have to talk about Homework.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know these people? So just a refresher here in case you don't know.
Yeah.
The show Homework on Magnolia Network came under scrutiny. It was pulled off the air when allegations were made against these couple renovators, Andy and Candace Meredith. Allegedly, they went way over budget. Mm-hmm. They didn't meet deadlines. They caused damages to like historic homes that they were working on. According to the Merediths, they felt like the timing of these allegations so close to the premiere date was on purpose to hurt them. What is your take as somebody who's kind of been in this world, in the interior design world? What are people saying, and what's the scoop on the Merediths and the show Homework?
So we don't know them personally, but it's a small community. Like Utah is very small. Everyone knows everyone, especially because of our faith. Like 6 degrees of separation is
They're
more
in Utah
like
also?
1. Yes.
Ooh. You're the perfect person to talk about
People have been messaging Matt and I since this came out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, tell us everything."
Yes, tell us everything.
So we know that they have been like involved in some shady business deals before this came about. So we actually are perplexed as to how they even got on the network, because when we were on the network, they did a background check with us that was so intense. They were asking us about speeding tickets we had in 2007.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, explain to us why you got this ticket.
Do they have a criminal record?
Well, I don't know if I can get into crazy details about it, but it's not, it was a huge lawsuit
Okay.
and it was bad
Yeah.
for them. And I think they lost their house and I think it was really bad.
So they have a history. Yeah, they've got a history.
Yeah, they
Shady
have a
business
history.
deals are like scammery.
Yes. So we know a lot of people that have been burned by them. Like
Ooh.
we know people personally that are like, oh, it's horrible. It's exactly what they say. And LDS people, Mormon people generally don't like lie about things just to get in the limelight. Like I don't see all these couples rising up to get their 15 minutes of fame to get the show off. Like that's just not in our nature as a culture to be like that. So I was always super skeptical of the Merediths saying, oh, they're just saying that because of the timing of the show. You know what I mean? So people said that they, that it was true and that they were burned and that they did some bad business dealings. And I honestly don't know why they thought they could take on a production like that. I mean, we had 200 people on our production. I don't know if that's really the number, but High Noon Productions, which produced our show, has hundreds of employees working on every show. So I don't know. And the Merediths took on the production by themselves.
Yeah, that sounds
and
stupid.
sold it to Magnolia. And my mind is just so
why
completely,
that was accepted.
Like why that was accepted.
Also, they're white.
I know.
So when you see these other like shows that have blown up and stuff,
but they're not conservative.
They're conservative?
They're not.
Oh, they're not. Okay. So do you feel like they did find out about you guys being conservative and that might have played a part?
Oh, I know that they know that we're conservative because our production team knows. So, and I really think they stalk us on social media. Like I think that they have someone that goes in and does a huge, I mean, on Bachelor, like if you've done, someone's getting that dirt from someone in 2013, what they did. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's just people on the internet. It's very well probably people within the networks who are going in and seeing, is this person going to come back to bite us as a network? And then the president of HGTV, 2 weeks after they canceled our show, was on Vanity Fair and did an entire interview about how they're going to try and diversify their talent.
In what way?
She said, I have this article pulled up right here. She said, HGTV is cognizant of a lack of diversity in its roster. We feel, quotes, we feel like we have probably not done the best job in terms of our talent, and it's time for that to change.
Starting with the Hammers.
Literally. And this is coming from the woman who did ultimately put the axe on our show. We have, over the last year and a half, been actively diversifying. So year and a half, Hammers are 6 months prior to year and a half. So we came on and signed contracts before all this stuff happened in 2020. You know what I mean? I mean, we're like, we fit the mold during contract time. So we think that we just went through all of this stuff and they had to air it to get their money back because the show was so expensive.
Wow.
So they needed the ad revenue.
Not stick with the show.
Oh, I'm sure.
So now where are things at when it comes to the Hammers and a renovation TV show? Are you still shopping around?
Well, we do have a couple of options that we're still shopping around, and we have a couple production companies that we're doing things with. We have a podcast, Hammer It Forward.
And that's really relationship focused.
Yeah, it's relationship focused and family focused and business focused. And Matt and I are super transparent. So we just tell funny stories. We have a great banter between each other. So we talk a lot about all the things on our podcast. So we do that with a different production company. And then we have a show sort of in the works with another production company. So we'll see, but we're just so busy right now that it's kind of crazy.
That's
so we're
so
just
exciting.
taking it day by day and just loving it.
All right, so let's get into the fun stuff.
Yes.
What is your dream type of project to tackle? Like doing a full-blown remodel for a client or going in to really emphasize one special, unique room?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. Because we've done both. I would say my very favorite is when a client sort of gives me full reign and is like, I don't know what I'm doing. here's the keys to my house. Contact me in 4 months when you're done. And I'll ask them a few questions about who they are and what they like, and then just try my very best to build them in the design and then watch them just be
so
blown
what's the
away.
most unique like quirk or I don't know, feature or, you know, something that a client liked that you had to include somehow in a design or incorporate in a design?
Oh, man. That's a hard one. For the house, the HGTV house we did, they always like there to be something super special. And this little couple had a bakery. Their parents had a bakery, and their little pie shop sign, I had to incorporate that pie shop. She loved it. She was like, I want this somewhere in the design. So we got some paintable wallpaper, and I painted the sign all in her craft room on the wallpaper, and she cried, and it was so tender, and had a picture of her framed in the little uniform she wore when she was a teenager, and that was really fun. I think everything else we do is so personal to the client, and I don't know if we've done anything like super
What do you
quirky.
wish somebody would ask you to do? Like a project you wish someone would, you're just, please, somebody.
I wish someone said, I don't have a budget.
Right?
Because even our uber wealthy people, because we have very wealthy clients, even if our uber wealthy, and they still are like, what's the bottom line? And it just kills my creativity.
Yeah,
because I can only go so far.
Sky's the limit. You could do so many things.
I wish someone was like, I have $5 million. Go remodel my 2,500 square foot house. That would be crazy fun. It would be fun to do like a vacation home too. That was like outside of just a different architectural type of home, like a colonial home or.
Well, you know, I'm obsessed with Spanish Revival right now.
Yes, Spanish Revival. I would love to do that. Not one person has asked me to do Spanish Revival in Utah, so I would love it.
Okay, so do you notice interior design wherever you are? Like if you go to somebody's house or something, you're just like, oh, that looks terrible. Like
I notice it
taking notes?
everywhere. Everywhere I go. It's probably so annoying. I'll be going to the bathroom like, oh, this is nice tile. I really like this tile on the wall.
Yeah, where'd you get it?
Yeah, where's it from?
So your partner on projects is your husband.
Yes.
I'm sure that's super fun, but can also be challenging.
So
how do you
fun.
guys? How do you divvy up your roles on specific projects?
So he does all the yucky things that no one wants to do: budget, project management, time schedules. You know,
the man things,
the construction. I don't want to do any of that. So we really separate roles, and we mostly stay in our lanes. Sometimes when we're with a client, they're like, is this easy? I'm like, oh, it's so easy. And Matt's like, what are you doing? It's not easy. You know, and sometimes he'll try to throw out design type, and I'll look at him like, no, you don't know what you're doing. So we're good. We're really good at staying in our own lanes.
I mean, it can be, and I'm going through this right now, it can be very expensive to redesign a space, obviously. But what are 3 things that someone can do to start the process of redesigning?
Paint. Huge. You can really do some paint and make a huge impact. Like I've been seeing a lot of people do 3/4 of the wall. So you have like a line or an accent. There's any number of things you can do with paint that can just completely change your whole house. I think finding a piece that you really love that's vintage and from a thrift of some kind, and going on Pinterest and figuring out a way that you can make that thrifty thing the most incredible thing in your house. So that's like super affordable and a fun DIY. I think that you can, because the paint is so big, I was like, oh, you can paint over your tiles even. Like they have,
really?
They have tile paint.
Okay,
so
what is I'm doing like a bunch of stick-on wallpaper.
Yes.
Is that okay?
I think it's very easy for people. I mean, it's not easy. Your hand will hurt so bad. Your arm. You'll be like, oh my gosh.
I'm hiring. I have Catie who's coming up next. Catie, who's my interior designer for my home or apartment.
Yeah.
She's doing it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a disaster. I can't even color within the line. So me trying to put up wallpaper.
No. Yeah. I normally don't suggest peel and stick only because my wallpaper person that does my application would just laugh at me and walk away.
Well,
and then I don't have time to do it.
But
yes,
for
rented spaces, I think they're incredible.
Okay.
I think it's great, and it's budget because you don't have to pay for somebody. You can just do it yourself. So it's an incredible thing.
What is in and what is out? What do people need to stop doing when it comes to interior design?
People say shiplap is out, and it's so not true. The way Joanna Gaines did it is out. But if you look at any one of your Pinterest boards, I guarantee you there is tongue and groove somewhere in that house. And it looks so stunning and so beautiful. It's always in. It will always be in. Paneling of some sort will always be in. And wood accent walls will always be in. So don't let anyone tell you it's out, because it's not. Really bothers me. But what is out is words on walls. Never, ever in your
live, laugh, love.
Never.
We want to live, we want to laugh, we want to love, Chrissy.
Never put that on your walls. I don't love chevron. There's a difference between chevron and herringbone. I love herringbone. They're very similar. Chevron's out. No chevron. Let's see what else is out. I think that I think white walls are really in, like neutral walls. Unless you're in a small space, like an office or a bedroom, then I think you can paint it a fun color. But don't do your living space like blue or gray or no. It should be white and creamy, something like that. What else is out? I think we've maybe seen our fair share of cement tiles, patterned cement tiles. I think if you get really unique ones that aren't anywhere else, that's cool. But the ones that have been mass printed.
Where do you think are the best cost-effective and best quality, interior design type of stores or furniture stores
that people can go to?
Yeah.
I think At Home is a good place for people to get a lot of good things that are knockoff. Amazon has really good stuff too. So does Walmart.
Really?
Yeah, they have tons of designer dupes. It's crazy. Studio McGee dupes. Target, they are killing it. In their interior.
I got so much stuff from Target for my apartment.
Their line is Studio McGee's line at Target is so good. And I think those are all super affordable.
What is up next for you guys?
So we're going to continue with our podcast. We're going to continue with our business. We're going to continue to try and make people's homes so beautiful, raise those babies right, live that American dream. And I was back there at your set, Alex. Checking it out.
Yeah.
I feel like you need a refresh.
On Politics?
Yes, on the Politics set. Would you let me do a refresh?
Really?
Yes, I would love to.
Yes, I really, really would like that. It needs it so bad. Let's do that.
It's time. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh, let's redo the Politics set.
Let's do it.
Chrissy, thanks for coming on the Spillover.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Strong and Sexy Fit. Strong and Sexy Fit is a women's wellness company that has been taking the supplement industry by storm with their powerful and unique formulas. All of their products contain full disclosure labels with no proprietary blends and no artificial colors or flavors. So you know exactly what you are getting in each scoop. They have unique, high-quality formulas and delicious flavors oh my gosh, eyes roll back into your head, yummo, like guava colada and lilikoi nectar available in their best-selling fat burners. They even have refreshing greens available in Hawaiian honey tea. I'd also like to mention one of my favorites, their industry-leading Goddess formula, which is perfect for any woman trying to balance out their hormones. Ew! Goddess uses an all-natural approach of vitamins, minerals, and herbs to help your body detox and achieve homeostasis. Benefits include reduced PMS symptoms, sign me up for this, clearing up acne, yes, less stress, better sleep, regulating your cycle. Okay, I just yelled, but because you guys know how passionate I am about that and more. See a full list of benefits on their website, strongandSexyFit.com. Try any of their products today and get 15% off with code SPILLOVER. As if Chrissy Hammer's story wasn't incredible enough, you get a 2-for-1 special today. I really wanted to focus today's episode on amazing conservatives doing phenomenal things in the interior design world. My next guest is another outstanding conservative woman and phenomenal interior designer. Catie Bouchard is the founder and creator of a nonprofit called Pen and Napkin. Okay, the name alone, I love it. It's so perfect. Even better, I'm always looking for creative and unique charities with conservative ties. Pen and Napkin is just that. And I knew you would fall in love with the mission of this charity like I have. If you're a design lover like me, this is the nonprofit for you. Here's what's really neat about it. Pen and Napkin helps families and individuals transition out of homelessness and human trafficking and into fully furnished and decorated homes. They have a team of over 280 designers nationwide who sign up to do projects in almost all 50 states. Pen and Napkin trains these designers and assigns them families and projects. And what absolutely shook me is that 50% of all families that transition into a home from homelessness end up back on the street. But when a homeless family is provided a home that's fully furnished, there is a 98% success rate in ending the homeless cycle in a family's life. What Pen and Napkin is doing is incredible, but there's something else too. Catie agreed to take over the redesign of my apartment. You've probably seen on my Instagram stories, Ruggageddon anyone, that I am finally getting grown-up furniture and an actual working theme for the first time in my life. I mean, I'm almost 30. It's probably time, right? So I wanted to have Catie on, not only to share the amazing work she's doing with Pen and Napkin and how you can help, but I also want to get the tea on what she's doing with my apartment, as well as Catie's own experience with TV networks in the interior design world. Yeah, she's got her own story too. And the insane story, I couldn't have written this if I thought of it, of how I was discriminated against for being conservative because of my furniture. Yeah, bet you weren't expecting that. Trust me, I wasn't either. Please welcome to the Spillover, interior designer and founder of Pen and Napkin, Catie Bouchard. Let's start at the beginning, Catie. You actually grew up in a family that has a lot of television ties.
Yes.
And grew up in a Christian conservative house. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my mom and my dad both worked in television. My mom was a producer. She actually is one of the first female on-air reporters in San Diego. So
Wow.
Anchorman is loosely based on my mom's life.
Oh my gosh.
Not intentionally. She just happens to relate to everything that happens in that movie.
Especially the mahogany floors or whatever.
Just like the creepy guys. Like I have this picture of my mom in the 60s where she's sitting next to a guy with her like Channel 7 pin, and this guy next to her looks just like Brick. Like identical. Like I kid you not. It's the funniest picture. I should have brought it. But yeah, she was an incredible reporter, and then she became a producer for NBC, and my dad was her cameraman. That's how they met. And he's still a cameraman today.
That's super cute. Yeah, and he works for Dr. Phil, right?
He does. Dr. Phil put me through college.
And so did you grow up, were your parents always Christian, always conservative growing up, or was there kind of a turnaround?
My mom became a believer when she had me. She grew up in a very strict, like, Catholic girls' school, not really Catholic home, but she went to Catholic girls' school, so she didn't really like any idea of religion or anything like that. She left Chicago to pursue her dreams in California, and my dad grew up in a conservative home with a dad as a pastor. So my mom was super liberal, and my dad's super conservative. And then they met working together, and my mom was going through her third divorce and had a 3-year-old little girl, my older sister, and my dad was just there for her through everything. And my dad had just gone through a divorce because his wife didn't want to have kids. And then he fell in love with my sister, like, because she would bring her to work every day. And then they just became a family. And then, you know, they had my brother, got married. And then when she had me, she wasn't expecting me. Shocker, surprise. Sorry, Mom. Late 40s baby.
Wow.
She was like told that she was in menopause and she couldn't have kids. But then God was like, no, we need one more.
Oh my gosh. So then growing up like that, I mean, did you just was faith always a part of your life? Or did you, like, as you got older, feel like that's when you actually got saved?
No, it was definitely a part of my life growing up, because when I was born, I was like born with the mumps. And so was my mom had the mumps, and she was really sick, and I was almost stillborn. And there was like a prayer chain, and my mom got on her knees for the first time and dedicated my life to God and dedicated her life to God. And she started reading her Bible every day. And I never saw my mom not read her Bible. Like, it was every day. So we went to church every Sunday and heavily involved. My mom was the leader of the dance team. My dad did the sound and the camera work for the church. And yeah, it just was a part of our life, being a part of mission trips and doing all that growing up, going to church camp. Like, it was very, very much our life.
So was your mom on the side really interested in interior design, or how did you get into that business?
I think if it had to choose one of them, it would be my dad. He wanted to be an architect, but he actually dropped out of college because his mom got cancer. So he never pursued that and just started doing film because it made him happy. He was making videos with his buddy and just got into film. But yeah, I think my love for it came from my dad. He loves design, and I used to move my furniture around as a kid just to get my mom's attention. So she'd come home from work really late from a shoot and she'd like trip over my dresser because I moved it. And I remember just being so little and like pushing my back up against the wall on my feet just to get the dresser across the room. I was just that kid. I would make staircases out of books and stack them up to my window so I could make a patio out on the air conditioning unit outside my window. I just always was designing ever since I was little.
And so did you go to college for it, or how
Yeah.
did you actually start making it into a career?
I actually went to Cal State Long Beach, which is a very liberal school, and I studied general design. So I actually was a part of creating a new design program. And because they had a degree program that was very flawed, they would you'd graduate with interior design degree only if you got into their interior program. But they had all these students that would apply and not get in, but they would never get a degree. They'd go to school for like 6-7 years and never get a degree.
Right.
So we created this general design degree, and I already had a job waiting for me. So I just wanted to graduate and go. And then I was working for a company called Tangram Studio, designing custom furniture.
And so you wanted to start this nonprofit because you witnessed something working as a furniture designer in downtown LA. What was it that really pierced your heart and led to creating what is now known as Pen and Napkin?
Well, we had just opened our showroom in downtown LA in the Pac Mutual building, which is a really famous building in downtown LA. And we were on the 12th floor, and it was this beautiful view. And I was looking out, and I saw this woman, pulling her dinner out of the trash, basically, and eating off other people's scraps. And I felt like God was just telling me, like, this is your new client. Like, I want this to be your new clientele. And driving into LA every single day and seeing people experiencing homelessness, it can wear on you. You can either choose to shut it off or you can choose to see it, So I couldn't shut it off. It would be too heartbreaking, and giving money and food and little care packages wasn't doing it for me anymore, And so I really asked God, like, I want to help. I want to do something. I was literally offering myself to be the hands and feet. Like, can I do something to help? And I didn't know what it was. And then I would say that was like the first moment where I remember like that, him saying to me, like, this is going to be your new clientele. And then when I was driving on the 405 freeway, actually following a boy for a date, and we were in traffic, and God whispered Pen and Napkin in my ear, just the name. I had no idea what it was, but it was such a cool name. And I was like, that could be like a design house. That could be a fashion line. That could be a furniture line. That could be anything. Like, it's a blank canvas. It really could be anything. It could be a think house where you solve problems and you get designers together and you solve needs. And I ended up telling the guy I was dating at the time about it, and he actually bought the domain for me and set up all the things I would need for a website, because he did that. He was in marketing. And he really encouraged me. And later on, 2 years later, when I was actually ready to start Pen and Napkin, I had to call him and be like, can I have my domain back?
Oh, no. That is something that would happen to me, let me tell you.
He was so sweet about it, though. He had no problem with it. He was so proud of me for pursuing it. And he was a big part of the reason why I was excited about the name in the beginning. So, but yeah, so Pen and Napkin started. And then I kind of sat on it for like 2 years. I just owned the domain. Online website name or whatever you call it. And then I just waited.
What did you wait for?
For me to be brave enough to quit my job and pursue it. Frankly, I wasn't ready to quit my job. I was making really good money. I was working with clients. Like, I got to help design Hulu's first office before they blew up.
Oh my gosh.
I got to design Pinkberry's office.
Okay, wait. This is very controversial fun fact about me. I love regular original tart Pinkberry yogurt.
Yes.
And I had an ex-boyfriend who used to make fun of me and say I like spoiled milk ice cream.
What?
Because it's got that like tart
No, it's
flavor.
so good. The original flavor is the only flavor. It's so good with
that's
strawberries.
phenomenal.
I love it. Yeah, I know. And
Wait, those are so like iconic, fun brands. Like when I think about just the aesthetic of Pinkberry and Hulu, that's so neat.
Yeah. And I got to work with Urban Decay. Like, honestly, like some of the best. And the owner of Urban Decay is a doll. Like, honestly, like some of the best companies. And I was living it with my mentor and friend and boss. And we were doing it for like 6 years, almost 7 years. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave the relationships. I didn't want to leave knowing that it was going to blow up. Because now we were doing like, I think when I started, we were doing like 2 million, 5 million a year. And then when I left, we were at 9 million. And she's now probably 20 million a year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of them. And they have a new name called Studio Other. But yeah, they're still doing custom office furniture and designing for all these amazing companies. But I I had to leave in order to pursue Pen and Napkin. And that was what took me a couple years to really let go of that so I could embrace this, what I felt like was a call in my life. But again, I didn't know what Pen and Napkin was. I just knew the name, and I knew that I had to pursue it.
So then you take this leap where
Yes.
you're like, okay, I'm going to leave this cushy corporate type of job, interior designing for massive brands
Yes.
that we all know and use.
Yes.
And I'm going to start this thing helping furnish homes for homeless people.
Yeah. How did I get there? I told everyone I was going back to school. And I did. I signed up to go back to seminary, actually. And I got a scholarship to go to Bethel Seminary down in San Diego, one of their satellite campuses. And it was during school where I took a class in community development that we did an interview for this transitional living center in El Cajon called East County Transitional Living Center. We love you guys. Just a little shout out. They do amazing work. And I went there and I talked to the community director, and he said, we do all this work for these families. We rehabilitate them, reunify them with their children. We get them jobs, we get them housing, but then we move them into their home with like a laundry basket with like cleaning supplies and, some essentials, but that's it. They don't have any furniture, and they've lived on a transitional center for 6 months to 2 years. Like, think about that.
So they have a roof over their head, but essentially they're still homeless. They're still sleeping on the floor.
Yeah,
they have
empty.
nothing.
And for kids, that's so hard because they're coming from a transitional center where they have, all 3 meals a day, a bunk bed, like community, like all those things. And it's beautiful. But then they go from that, which before that they were homeless. So going from that fully furnished, little apartment to an empty space doesn't feel like a step up, right? It feels like a step down. But for the family, they're excited because they have their own place now. And mom and dad, in the first project we ever did in San Diego, the mom and dad were living separate because they could only have a certain amount of kids in each room, and they had 5 kids total. Wow. So the mom and dad were in different rooms for 2 years. So this was the first time they could actually be in a home together as a family, and it was a big deal. But they didn't have any furniture. And so in that moment when he said he needed furniture, and I just left the furniture industry, basically, I was like the Hallelujah chorus, started singing. I had my aha moment, all that sacrifice, living on a farm in Alpine. Like, I did not know what I was doing. I went from the city to the farm, and I was so out of my place. And like going to seminary was hard because I'm not a bookworm like you. I barely read like in high school and college. I did design work. I love to draw, and so I was writing 22-page papers. Like, I was miserable, but I knew that this was the moment why I did it all, was for this moment to find this need. And I feel like we all have a need that we can take responsibility for, and this was mine. So
this is number one thing that pops into my mind, and this is coming from somebody who, I'm being completely honest, and I'm totally ignorant about, how to fix our homelessness problem in the country and everything.
Yeah.
So my first thought when I think about a charity like this is, when you're choosing these families, how do you know that they're not going to just, all this hard work, you furnish an entire house, and then they end up back on drugs or whatever? Like, are you picking these families specifically?
Yeah.
Are you seeing if they have addiction problems or what goes into choosing which families you're going to furnish homes for?
Right. That's a really good question. And this brings up even a bigger question of like, some of the models that exist in like LA County with like Housing First and rapid rehousing, it's lacking this transitional component. Transitional housing is so important because people need an opportunity to gather themselves, to heal, to restore, to get off addiction, whatever it might be. For the example of partnering with East County Transitional Living Center, the good thing about them is if they're coming from prison and they still have some things to work out, they go through that process at the transitional center. And then they have their counseling and they have everything that they need, all the resources, all the supportive resources they need. If they have a drug addiction, they actually send them to a sober facility that they monitor and they work with. And so these people come to the transitional center sober. And it's really important because if you don't have that season of healing, you are going to just repeat. Like, history will repeat itself because you haven't really come to terms with your demons. You haven't come to terms with the struggles. You haven't faced your fears in that sense, and you haven't really healed. And obviously, if you're coming from a domestic violence situation, there's going to be years of healing, but there also needs to be supportive resources, like you're saying, in order for them to do that. We're not a house of caseworkers. We are designers. So we specifically come alongside caseworkers so that all their effort and all their work isn't thrown out after 2 years because the trauma of entering an empty home again is revisiting some of those past demons. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happens. I think the reason why that statistic is so massive. Like 50% of families that transition into empty homes will find themselves back through the system. I think it's because they feel helpless. They feel overwhelmed. As a lot of single moms. And if you're a single mom and you can't nest properly, if you can't give a bed to your child, that's going to affect your psyche. That's going to affect your ability to get up and go to work. That's going to affect everything.
And so you're talking about what Pen and Napkin does. These are transitional homes that you're decorating.
So these are the transitional homes we have done. We have decorated transitional homes in the past, but what we do is it's their permanent residence. It's their permanent housing. So it's usually Section 8 housing or government assisted living housing, but it's not a transitional center.
Got it.
Does that make sense? But they still have access to their resources if we have chosen a family that is a graduate of a program. And that's where we've done both, where we've helped families that haven't graduated a program and they turned over and they lost all their furniture, and it was devastating to not just them, but to our team, for all the efforts they put through. But it's worse on the kids. It's devastating to give a kid a bed and then everything's gone.
Well, what stuck out to me about Pen and Napkin, and this is why I was like, oh, cute conservatives will think this is so cool, because I did, is at first you're like, okay, so what? So you guys are just like gathering furniture and then you just donate furniture to these people. No. These are, like Catie, like real interior designers, skilled interior designers. And you guys are making these homes for these people, like incredible works of art. They're beautiful. And so when I came across your Instagram and stuff, which we'll get into, I was looking at this as like, oh, this girl's got style. I love all this. I was like, oh my gosh, wait. So you're decorating houses that look like this good. I mean, like Pinterest worthy, but these are for people that have gone through, crazy hardships.
Yeah, they're getting the best.
Yes, and now they're getting this. And so that was what was neat to me. It's not that you're just taking furniture and just like, here's like, some lousy bed or whatever. Like, no. This is special. This feels special for them.
It is. And it feels like the standard of excellence I feel like God requires of us to serve. I feel like so often, I think growing up in the church, I can speak to this because I grew up in the church, but I think so often we would see projects being done, like community effort projects, and they get the volunteers together to paint a mural, and it's like awful because not one person's an actual artist, and it looks terrible. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just hire artists to do this so that it looks really good? You know what I mean? So being a kid and kind of picking up on that, and then later on in life being a designer, I asked myself, like, what could I personally take responsibility for in my community and then bring my best to that? And then giving other designers the opportunity to do the same is the only way I see that Pen and Napkin can grow, is because we want the best to serve the least of these.
Well, you reached out to me to give me some advice on my own interior design fiasco with my apartment. And one thing led to another. Now you are helping me design my place after being a fan of my daily show, Politics, and the Spillover for some time.
Yeah.
I thought this would be fun to ask you. So based on what you know about me,
oh God,
from what I post online and share on my shows and everything, just my personality,
or what late night text message exchange.
Yeah, well, before that though, like what your what's
perception?
The impression, perception of me was, before actually meeting me and getting to know me. Based on that, what surprised you the most about how I was actually looking to decorate my home?
I definitely thought you were going to be more like airy boho, like light and bright. But then I never forgot that post about that art piece that you love so much. And so
the creepy picture of the girls in the water,
which is
that everyone hated. We're like, what is this?
But honestly, it's now, having known you for a little while and gotten to know your style and your taste, it's interesting because it makes sense. It makes sense why you would want to come home to a place that mellows you out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That is such a good description, because I do feel like that. I have explained this to guys I'm dating and stuff before, because it's funny because every guy I date, when they get asked by their friends and stuff like, what is it like dating Alex? Just what they know about me online and my shows and stuff, they always think that I'm always like, on one 100% of the time. Like, I'm super spazzy, like talk like this all the time. Because I do that when I get excited, like on the show and stuff. But no, at home and in my personal life and stuff, I'm very, very chill. I'm almost like a little bit more introverted.
Totally.
Because I'm talking and entertaining and stuff.
So much.
All
that you shut
day.
down when you get home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like with boyfriends and stuff, they're like, oh no, she's never like that. She's very, she's very, very relaxed and stuff. And so I loved the idea of having something totally opposite than what you see on the Spillover set or the Politics set. Just like kind of like a dark, creepy, not as creepy as like Kat Von D's mansion in LA. Did you see that she just put that up for sale?
No.
She literally has the swimming pool in the backyard dyed red like blood. I mean, that's like super gothic.
Yeah, no.
That's like too dark for me, but I don't know what is the style we're going for.
Honestly, I think we have come to terms with you are eclectic.
Yes.
So we started off with, I want it to look like Spanish revival. And then you're like, but I like vintage. And then you're like, but I like antiques. And I like dark and moody. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's keep going. And like we went back and forth a lot with different pieces of furniture. And she would be drawn to certain things and not drawn to other things that were surprising. But they would just direct me closer to kind of honing in on her style. And it's a lot of freedom with an eclectic taste, so it's nice. We get to have a lot more fun and play with color and play with texture and play with old and new pieces and blend them together. So
well, one thing I told you, I said none of that. Live, laugh, love, farmhouse, all white. Like, I'm done with it. I'm so over it because every person has the same thing. And I have my entire life from being a teenager on, I always wanted to look and be completely different than everybody else.
Right.
This is going to sound so cheesy. And I think I've said this like a long time ago in an interview. But I feel like the song that defined my life was Anything But Ordinary by Avril Lavigne. When I heard that for the first time in 4th grade, I thought, oh my gosh, she's right. I want to be anything but ordinary. And my whole, that has defined me, my personality, my career, how I want to decorate. So yes, for the first time, we're getting rid of, all of the furniture and stuff I've grown out of. And so speaking of that.
You're donating all of your furniture, like a doll, to Pen and Napkin.
Yes.
And I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
But we did have a bit of a disappointment in that process.
So this is juicy, Catie, and I really want to...
I want to navigate this gently because I want people to understand that this isn't like a fair representation of Pen and Napkin. I think it's a representation of the divide in our country right now and people's inability to see past others' beliefs and others' political stance for the common good. They're not able to set it aside. So how we operate is we have designers across the nation, like Alex said, that have signed up to say, hey, I want to do a project. So when Alex said, I want to donate all my furniture, I was like, oh, that's awesome. We'll get a storage unit. We'll save it for a family, and I'll find a designer that's in Phoenix that will take on a project for a family. We want to work with Family Promise out here, and I haven't reached out to them yet, but I'm going to. We work with Family Promise in Burbank and the Verdugos, so I know that they're an incredible transitional organization. And anyway, so before I reached out to Family Promise, I reached out to this designer, and she was really excited at the fact that someone was going to be donating all their furniture from their apartment, so that was going to make that easier for her. And she asked where the furniture was coming from, and I said, oh, it's from Alex Clark. And she's like, oh, I don't know who that is. And I was like, she is a conservative personality. Like, you can look her up if you want. And she just had this very negative response. She actually went to the TPUSA website. That was where she went. She didn't go to Politics Instagram or anything like that. She started scrolling, and she started, the more she scrolled, the angrier. You could hear it in her voice. She just got more and more angry. She's like, I can't be associated with this person. I think she used the word ew and yucky.
She said ew and yucky about me?
And I just was
you
like,
tell me this part.
I was like, oh, okay. And I said, okay, so let me get this straight. Like you don't feel comfortable doing the project at all now, or you just don't want to have the furniture, you don't want to use the furniture from her? Because at the end of the day, there's still families in need, right? So are we willing to like put that aside and still do a project with us, or you don't want to do the project at all? And it seemed like she just didn't want to do this project, but I think that was her nice way of saying she's done with Pen and Napkin. So I think that was like the first taste of what this might actually do, being on this podcast. But I also recognize that it isn't about politics as much as she thinks it's about politics, and maybe we feel like it is. I was really thinking about it, and I was like, at the end of the day, if someone had a need and you were presented with the solution for that need, if you choose not to solve that need, that's a hard issue. That's not anything else. And what's so beautiful about Pen and Napkin is that a lot of our followers are liberal. I love that. A lot of them are conservative, But what Pen and Napkin does is builds this bridge over this huge gap and this divide because we can agree that this kid needs a bed. And
That's what I don't understand. You're going to say that a homeless person, my furniture as a conservative is not good enough for someone that's homeless, who
Right.
literally has nothing.
Right.
Nothing. My furniture is not good enough just because that I'm conservative. Like, that person, doesn't care whose butt sat on that couch
No,
before
they
and who
don't.
they voted for.
They don't care, and they would never ask. And I never ask what my clients' beliefs are. Like, I
Yeah.
would never deny my client. I've had clients, literally, Alex, I've had clients tell me, you know what, I'm not going to need that crib because I'm going to have an abortion.
Mm.
Like, and I still did the project, even though my heart broke into 1,000 pieces, knowing
Wow.
that this crib isn't going to get used by this mom anymore. But like, I'm getting emotional because, she couldn't handle another child. And so she was, making that decision, and it was heartbreaking. But we still did the project. We still got beds for the other kids, and we still loved that mom.
Of course.
Of course, because that's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, wherever the furniture comes from, wherever the funding comes from, we're going to take it and use it the way God is going to use it. And I'm just so grateful for the designers that can see past that and see that, we are going to unite in this effort, because they don't even know sometimes that they're working alongside conservative Christians. They're working alongside liberals, and Christians are working alongside each other all the time during Pen and Napkin projects. And some of them don't even know it. I would say the vast majority of followers on Pen and Napkin don't know I'm conservative. The woman I was talking on the phone with probably thinks that I agreed with her, because I didn't argue with her. I didn't yell at her. I just said, okay, I understand your position, that you feel like you can't do this project, and we'll find another designer for this project. And I hope that, if you ever change your mind, that you come and you do a project with us. And she was like, yeah, I really want to do a Pen and Napkin project. But at the end of the day, who's the one that suffers in that moment? The family. Not you, not me, not even her. The only one that suffers is one more family didn't get served. We need as many designers as we can. And we have so much need around us that there's not enough designers. So for one designer to back out because of something like this, it was heartbreaking, but eye-opening.
Now, you've experienced your own discrimination from TV networks for being openly Christian.
Yeah.
Just like Chrissy Hammer was canceled from HGTV. I mean, their show was, like she described earlier, was coming out, that they had started filming.
Wow.
That was all happening. And then all of a sudden, you know what? You're white and you're conservative. We don't want to work with you anymore.
Dang.
So could you talk about what your experience has been working with TV networks?
Well, mine was before, like, the pandemic, which seems like a whole another era.
Right.
This was pre-COVID, even though COVID's been around forever, I guess. But I think it was a hard, it was a hard reality. We got hit with so much interest. We did, I don't know where to begin in this story. But basically, we spoke at a church, and we shared, like, our mission. And then the pastor prayed for us at South Hills in Burbank. And one producer came and approached us, and he said, you know what, this would be an incredible reality show. Have you ever thought about doing that? And I was like, honestly, I grew up in television. Like, I really don't want to do a reality show. But as long as we can protect my families that I serve, like my clients, and we can keep the integrity of the show, and there can be a faith-based component, and, he assured me, he's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it. And then before I knew it, we were meeting with 7 different production companies.
Wow.
So many people wanted to make Pen and Napkin a show. And I was like, wow, God, you must really want to make this a show if you're having producers follow me and find me from all over in this short period of time. It was bizarre. So I took it with a grain of salt, and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm willing to walk this road with you. So we did interviews with so many different production companies, some really big ones too. And a lot of the producers tried to talk me out of having the faith component in there. And they said, if you keep it in there, you're not going to get a show. I'm just telling you straight up. If you keep it in there, you're not going to get a show. So let's just take it out, and then we can talk about it once the show's there, once you've signed your contract. But it can't be in the contract. You're making things harder for us. We can't pitch this show. We can't shop this show. We can't sell this show if you have that in there. And I stuck to my guns. And we shot a pilot with the first producer who approached us at that church, thinking that he could make it happen, but no. And they pitched to everyone. But
they didn't want to have you be openly Christian on the show.
And they said it was probably because of that. It was mostly because, it makes it hard to sell a show.
Unreal. Well, here's the deal. I love what Catie is doing with Pen and Napkin. My birthday is next week. 29. She's 29, 90s baby. So in honor of my birthday, I wanted to humbly ask you guys, and myself included, to become care-servatives for the next week and donate to Pen and Napkin. And what's really cool is that my birthday actually falls in line with a really neat project that Pen and Napkin is doing for human trafficking survivors.
Yeah, so we're working with Cherished LA. They are a nonprofit that helps survivors of human trafficking and sex trafficking get back on their feet. It's run by a wonderful woman named Catie. I hope you get the chance to meet her or talk to her one day. She has an incredible story of being trafficked herself, and she felt like there was this gap in resources for her when she was getting out of the industry and trying to start over. She didn't have a lot of opportunities for jobs. She didn't have a lot of opportunities for real, anything. And so she wants to be that for these survivors. And the Super Bowl every year is one of the largest events that traffickers take advantage of, I guess.
Yeah, they target women there, and they're selling women while the Super Bowl is happening.
Yeah,
there's all these women being sold at the
awful.
stadiums.
Yeah, it's awful. And there's going to be, actual rescues happening, and they're one of many organizations that have been a part of this process in helping all these women and children. Unfortunately, there's going to be more children than ever this year. They're anticipating an increase of 300%.
Oh my gosh.
And it's heartbreaking. So I think once the women are rescued and brought to the facility, they're going to be walking into a fully furnished and decorated home. Catie got another house donated to her. So she has 2 safe houses now, and the second one has never been furnished. It was completely empty when she got it. We replaced the carpet in both houses because it was pretty gross. And we've spent a good amount of money on furnishing the one house, and then we still have to furnish the other one. But yeah, we're fundraising for that right now.
Amazing. So any donations made to Pen and Napkin over the course of the next week, that will most of that will be going towards that project for the human trafficking survivors to have fully furnished homes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where should conservatives go to donate to Pen and Napkin?
penandnapkin.org/donate.
Awesome. Catie, thank you so much for coming on the Spillover today. I'm so excited for everything Pen and Napkin is doing, and I also cannot wait to see what you do with my apartment.
Oh my gosh, let's go shopping.
You know what's unifying? The arts, music, art, design, all of it. It brings people from different backgrounds together. A liberal and a conservative can look at the same design and both love it. We can buy the same clothes and dance to the same songs, and for a moment, we forget that we don't agree on everything, and that's a good thing. Chrissy and Catie aren't just concerned with politics. They are concerned about people and their needs and what they can do to solve those needs. I promise you, when the left and right come together to give a kid their dream bedroom, they aren't thinking about politics. They are thinking, wow, I'm so glad that this kid won't be sleeping on the floor tonight. When we can set our differences aside, we will start to see the unification we need to heal America. It starts with everyday people in every field who are willing to work with others without politics in mind, just like Chrissy and Catie. Before you go, don't forget to check out Pen and Napkin to see how they are impacting communities at the local level in such special ways. And then if you're able, I really, really would encourage you to make a donation to help their work. I don't usually ask you guys for much, but this case in particular is so near and dear to my heart, and it would just really make my birthday. And then show the Spillover some love by leaving a 5-star review. Leave a comment describing your interior design style. I'm really curious to know. I love getting to know you guys through those comments and reviews. Share this episode and make sure you're subscribed and in the know. Obviously, be following my daily show at Politics on Instagram too, because Chrissy is going to be redoing our set. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited. As always, new episodes of The Spillover drop every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific and midnight Eastern on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Watch this interview by subscribing to Politics on YouTube. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you. Mean it. Bye.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog.